So, welcome to my presentation. My name is Mark Lyons. I don't know how familiar you are with DraftSite. Has anybody never heard of DraftSite? That's good news. I've been doing this for a few years. In the first SolidWorks world, when I did do this, you know, the whole group put their hand up and said, never heard of it before. So I am the training specialist for DraftSite, and I've been doing this since DraftSite was being developed in 2008. So I've been at this for quite a long time. My background is as a high school teacher, as a high school teacher for 15 years. And I worked over 10 years in the mechanical design field. I worked for Bose Music Company. You probably heard of them. I used to design sound systems for cars. But back in the day, I was the first CAD user that Bose ever had. And I used Unigraphics. This was back in 1986, 85. So I've been doing 3D CAD since about that time. I spent quite a bit of my life trying to be the best CAD user I could be, and I felt like there was a time when I was at the top of the curve. Like, really. I mean, back in 86, I started doing 3D CAD, and I could just see that this was the future of the business. And I thought at that time, if I could get on top of the curve, I'd be set for life. Well, fast forward about 25 years, and where am I now? I'm the 2D CAD guy. So much for being at the top of the curve, right? But I am very happy in the job that I'm in. Like I said, I'm a training specialist, and it's a pleasure to do this job. We have a program that we have just instituted. It's called the Certified DraftSite Professional Program. And this is a certificate that you can earn. So to qualify to take the test, number one, attend the session. So you guys have already gone that far. You've got that passed. We have a sign-up sheet. Suzanne, she's going to pass it around now or during the session or at the end of the session. Make sure you put your name in the sign-up sheet with your email address. And what I will do is I will send you a link to the exam. It's a unique link to your email address. So I'll know who it is that sent it back to me. And it's a Survey Monkey. It's 100 questions. And by attending this session, you'll get some of the information. If you've used DraftSite, even if you use another CAD product that does 2D, you probably have a good chance of passing the test. If you get an 80% or better, you qualify, and we will print the certificate up. If you take it during the SolidWorks world and you've passed it, just come to the booth and we'll actually print out your certificate for you. Otherwise, what we'll do is we'll mail it to you. We're going to close down the survey on February 1st, so you got until then to take it. So if you don't want to take it now, too much to do at SolidWorks World, feel free to take it on your own. My boss, who was just standing here, took the test. He said it took him about a half an hour. He felt it was a fair test, and he is our first certified DraftSite professional. We also love to, and Darren is not here right now. I'm supposed to introduce Darren. He's going to come in later, but I just want to introduce who he is now. We have a person on our staff who does stories about our customers, and we like to know who you are. It's what Aaron just said, it's our emotional payback. We really like to know who's using our product and what you're using it for and what success stories you might have. And we'll do some public relations with that. We have a lot of great stories, and we like to keep them coming. Darren is here at SolidWorks World. If you feel like you want to go talk to him, he'll be in this session towards the end. When he walks in, I'll just kind of say, hey, that's Darren. And feel free to go up to him. Otherwise, he has an email address, draftsitenews@gmail.com. You can just send him an email and say, hey, look at what we just did with DraftSite. We've got some great stories already, but we'd love to get some more. So today's agenda, I'm just going to go through some demonstrating with DraftSite. Hopefully, you'll get some feel for what you can do with this system, what you can do with this product. I'll demonstrate these things, and I call them productivity boosters. You know, so if you're using CAD and you want to customize your user environment, I'll show you how to do some of that. Give you some of the things we've got going on with the toolbox. We got this new add-in that we're going to offer And I guess I'm feel free to say this now. It's not part of my presentation. But if you don't know, DraftSite there's a free version of DraftSite. You just go to draftsite.com. You can get it downloaded for free. It's available for the Mac, Linux, and also in Windows 64-bit and 32-bit. Just go to download it for free. We also have what we call the premium version. And the premium version is a paid-for version of DraftSite. And with that, you get our telephone support, so you can call, get support. You get a network license, and you also get the use of DraftSite APIs, and you can run Lisp with DraftSite. And that's pretty important, because if you use another CAD product that uses Lisp, you can just run that right in DraftSite. We have an API support team that if for some reason that app doesn't work for you, if you try to run that Lisp and it just comes back with an error, you can call our API support team. They'll actually help you massage that Lisp routine until you get it to work. And that's part of the fee for the DraftSite Premium Pack. With the DraftSite Premium Pack, as of today, you need to have a 5-seat minimum purchase, and I think it's $258 a seat. However, coming April, we are going to have a DraftSite Professional version. And the DraftSite Professional version gives you just about everything I just mentioned, with the exception of the telephone support. You get the API, you get to use Lisp routines, and it's a standalone version, so you can buy one seat. One of the drawbacks we've had at this point was limitation for the system was you had to buy 5 seats. Well, now with the DraftSite Professional version, it's going to be a standalone version that you can run the Lisp and the API. A lot of people really want to use the Lisp routines, but they don't want to purchase 5 seats, so you're going to have that opportunity in the near future, probably in April, or just thereafter. Okay, let me just see if there's anything else on this slideshow. Be a CAD hero. We have a link here. Suzanne, this still works, right? We have a link here if you want to go back to your office. See, part of the reason why we offer this DraftSite is to try to get you to save some money on your CAD budget. If you use another CAD product, 2D CAD, DraftSite is DWG DXF native format. And if you're using 2D CAD in your office now and you're paying a premium price for that product, DraftSite is a good solution. Go to DraftSite Premium Pack, DraftSitePremiumPack.com/users, and it's going to give you a bundle of information that you can pass on to someone in your organization that might want to make a decision on the products that you're using and maybe find that there's great cost savings here. I know of companies we're saving hundreds of thousands of dollars because they've switched over to DraftSite. Did you have a question?
Yeah, you said that the individual would be available this fall.
Probably April. Yeah. It's going to be called Professional. Yeah. We're actually going to rename Premium to Enterprise. So there'll be 3 versions. Free, Professional, Enterprise. Okay? If you're an organization that has, say, more than 3 or 4 or 5 users, you're probably going to want to use the Enterprise version because you get the telephone support. You get to talk to Caroline whenever you need to, and she's great help. She helps me all the time. So for us, with the free version especially, we have over 1.3 million users of DraftSite. Most of them are free users. We couldn't afford to have that many people on tech support for a free product. So we need to charge for that. So that's why it's going to go into the premium. It's in the enterprise version. Okay. So let's get to it. And do I have any other questions before we start? Feel free to ask. Like I said, I was a teacher for years, and one of the best teaching tools that I've ever known is communication. So if you can communicate with me, I can understand what you need. And it's usually a good teachable moment, because if you have that same question, somebody else probably has the same one, but maybe not as comfortable asking the questions. Okay, so I put the list together, and I was going to go through creating a custom toolbar, creating custom menus, creating a custom flyout icon, and let's see, what else I got? Blocks, attributes, talk about the premium pack, do the API, and run Lisp routine. Toolbox, and try and show you a way to use DraftSight and SolidWorks together. You know, I've been speaking to a lot of SolidWorks people over the years. I tend to go to a lot of SolidWorks user groups, and one of the feedback I always get is people who love SolidWorks love to see SolidWorks. So I've developed this routine where I actually show you SolidWorks just so you can see that we can actually talk together. DraftSight and SolidWorks can talk together. Okay, so let's start with the custom toolbar. Back in my teaching days, when I first started teaching, everything was hand drawings. I would teach the kids how to draw things by hand first, and then I would move them onto the computer. And then they start doing CAD work. And what I've found over the years, because I'm still involved in education, in Massachusetts, I'm the leader for mechanical and technical CAD programs for the high schools. One thing I've found is that the schools, the teachers are starting to teach the software, and they're not teaching the trade anymore. Has anybody ever been a draftsman? Who's a draftsman? Okay. So there's an art to drafting. And what I find, because some of these tools, like SolidWorks, they're so good that the whole concept of drafting and creating a drawing is lost. Because you create a 3D model, and you can drag and drop the views right into the drawing sheet, and you don't really understand why this view is here, and why this view is here, and why this view is here. If you don't talk to somebody who actually knows the drafting field or knows how to read a drawing, they just think there's 3 pictures on a piece of paper. They don't realize that it's the same object, just projected in different ways. So I found, in the state of Massachusetts at least, is the teachers started just teaching software, and they forgot to teach drafting. So I built this program for the teachers, and the program was, I had them all in a room like this, and I asked them a question. I said, who teaches the fundamentals of drafting? And they all raised their hand. I said, well, how do you do it? They use the software to do it. Okay, great. Do you use, and I talked AutoCAD language, excuse me, but do you use the array command? Yeah. Well, when I was on the drafting board, they didn't have such a thing. There was no such thing as an array command. What you had to do, if you had a bolt circle, is you had to actually draw the object in one place, then calculate the distance, draw it in another place, and calculate the distance, draw it in another place. So what I did is I have this program for the teachers, and I said, we're going to do this. We're going to eliminate all the toolbars, except for the ones that would equate to what you'd use on a drafting board. Line, delete, circle, these things. So what I did was I said, we're going to create a custom toolbar and a custom pull-down menu so that your students, when they get to the 2D CAD product, they have to complete the assignment with just using the tools that you give them. Okay, so we're going to do that. We're going to do a real quick assignment, and we're going to create a custom menu first. So you see here, DraftSight, we have menus, right? We also have toolbars that are across the screen. And I hope you can see this okay. So I'm going to create a new pull-down menu. I'm not going to go through the whole list of ones I would give them. I'm just going to give you a flavor of how you can do this and how easy it is. So what you do is you go into Tools, and you go into Custom Interface. Up pops this dialog box, and you get some options. Right now I'm in the Custom Commands option. I don't want the Custom Commands. I want to use Custom Interface. And I have 2 options here. I've got menus and toolbars. We're going to do a menu. And pretty much the reason why I'm showing you this is because if you ever did use this system and you wanted to figure out how to create your own custom menu, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So I'm going to show you how to do it. It's actually pretty easy. So you expand this thing here, and this is the list of all the menus that I have right now. If I wanted to, I could add or remove items from the menus that I already have. But I don't want to touch those ones. Those are the ones that are default. So I'm going to add. So the first thing I do is just right mouse click inside this box, and I get a menu. In the menu, I should put my glasses on. At this point, I have to start reading. So at a certain point, it goes from memory to actually having to do. So here it says add a new menu. So I click add a new menu. At the bottom of this list, there's this thing that says menu. You want borrow? It says menu. It drops down and adds an item. So what I need to do is I need to rename that item. So I'm going to rename it. I'm going to call it Draftsman. It's just a term. politically, I got yelled at one time because I called a draftsman, and I had a woman I worked with, she started screaming at me. She says, "Yeah, the draftsperson," because there's ladies that are draftspeople too. So anyway, so get on top of the word, right mouse click, rename. Let's type in draftsman. Simple. Okay? So what do I want in there? I'm going to expand this a little bit here. There's a button on the side right here. See that button? If I pop that open, it gives me a whole list of all the icons for the commands that I have already in the system. So just for ease of finding something, I'm going to type in the word line. So I type in the word line, and up pops some options. And I'm going to grab this one, just left mouse click and grab it and drag it right into that. And let's use infinite line. An infinite line is like a construction line. I might let the kids use a construction line to be able to do their orthographic projection. So when I was drawing on a board, I would draw a line all across. So I'll use infinite line. Drop, drag. Okay, how about a circle? Go into circle, drop, drag. Maybe an arc. Right? Drop and drag. So you see, I'm just finding the ones that I need to find, drop and drag. So those are construction ones. Those are ones I would use for construction. I might add a couple others, whatever. Okay? So now I want maybe to I'd have to write some notes, right? So notes. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to type in note. And I'm going to grab this one, drag it in, and I'll grab this one and drag it in. Okay? And if I expand it, you can see that these are all getting added into it. All right? So how about modifying? Maybe I want to delete. Oh, you know what? I think this is, for some reason, it's erase. I'll just drag it right in there. Trim, we'll do trim. And we'll do extend. And that'll be good enough for this exercise. Extend. So let me just drag it in here. I'll just drop it right there. So what you see here is I just created a new menu. You don't see it yet, but I created a new menu. And in the menu, I have some construction tools, I have some notation tools, and I have some modification tools. So why don't I do this? Why don't I separate the different categories? So right in here, I'm going to click on top of this arc, I'm going to right mouse click, and I'm going to say add a new separator. And it puts a separator there. And on top of simple note, I'm going to put new separator. So it puts a separator right after the function. So I'm pretty happy with this toolbar, okay, this menu. So we're good to go. So I'm going to apply it. Apply, hit OK, and then lo and behold, at the top of my screen here, I've got my custom menu. Now, as a former CAD user, see, as far as the menus go, they're always there. But icons, you like to maximize that workspace, right? You don't want to have a whole lot of icons in your workspace because you just need as much graphical area that you can draw as possible. So one way to minimize that is maybe create your own custom toolbar and then just use the ones that you're going to use. So I'm going to make a custom toolbar that maps to the one I just created. Okay, so we're going to create a custom toolbar that maps to the one I created. And that's Darren. Darren, I'm sorry, but I already introduced you because I didn't want to have to go back to my slideshow. Okay, so that's Darren. And feel free to contact Darren or just say hi to him. He'll be in the draft site booth as well for the next day at least, right? He'll be kicking around, but I gave you the email address. So that's simple, right? Create custom menu. Now we're going to do the same thing with the toolbar. So I go back to my tools, and I go into custom interface, and then I go to toolbars. And guess what? I do the same thing. I right mouse click in here, and I say a new toolbar. Let me just delete this one here a second. So I create a new toolbar. Again, I rename it. Draftsman. I didn't spell it right. And then I go through the same routine. As I just go ahead and line. And I drag line. Let's see if I can do this. Shift select. Nope, I can't. So I go to infinite line. Line. What do I have? Circle. Okay. I have arc. note. Simple note. And the question is, what's the difference between a note and a simple note? And I'll explain that in 1 second. Trim. And extend. Trim and extend. Boom. Okay, and I'll do the same thing. I can expand it. I go right in here, right mouse click, put a separator. Right here, right mouse click, put a separator. And I got my toolbar. So I apply it. Boom. Click OK. And I don't see anything. And I'm just going to do this little demonstration here because it makes a point that I like to try to make. I'm going to take a toolbar and I'm going to move it and I'm going to do what's called floating. So this toolbar is floating. The floating toolbar, if I right mouse click on top of the floating toolbar, nothing happens. But if I right mouse click on a docked toolbar, I get this menu. So if you happen to have a floating toolbar and you try to get to this menu, you're not going to get there if you click on the floating toolbar. You have to click on a docked toolbar. Then I just go up to toolbars, and I look for the one that said draftsman. I click on OK, and where'd it go? It's right here. Okay. To dock a toolbar, you just grab it until you see the blue shaded area and just let go, and it snaps it in place. Okay. And then snaps in place. Okay? So I will get to that question real quick because it's pretty simple. A note, when you type in a note, you can type in a paragraph, okay? And when you set it, you set the distance for the width of the column. And as you type, it auto-wraps. And you can have 5 or 6 rows of text all in one paragraph. With a note command, what you do is you locate the note command, or the simple note command rather, you locate it, you type in your text, and it's just, as long as you type it, it's going to go. It doesn't auto-wrap, and it's one line of text. But if you hit an enter key, and you type in another line of text, and hit enter key, another line of text, when you place it, you end up placing 3 pieces of text on your so the note command, the simple note command. So that's toolbar. That is creating a custom toolbar, creating a custom menu. So what I did with the kids is shut off all the toolbars except for the one that I made, and I said, that's the only toolbars you can use to create your geometry. And I, as a Skills USA advisor, trained one of the girls who had won the state championship in Massachusetts, won national gold. And the reason why is because she actually had the 2D skills that she needed to be able to produce the drawing the way it should have been produced. These 3D tools are great. Automatic drawings are great. But unless they understand the concept of orthographic projection and know what they're doing, it doesn't make a lot of sense to them. So this girl got it. Okay. So where else was I going to go here? A flyout icon. What's a flyout icon? In DraftSight, when you use a function, and I'm going to use the line option for an example. So I'm going to click on line, and I'll click on make a line. Right? I just drew a line 2 places. If I want to recycle that command, I hit enter, and it draws a line. Okay? If you probably know that, right? You can hit a space bar as well. So if on the toolbar here I have an icon for arc. With DraftSight, on the toolbar, that arc you can draw is what's called the 3-point arc, right? I want to recycle it, I can draw another 3-point arc. Pretty simple, right? Well, we also have these pull-down menus. So I go to draw arc, and I have some more options. So I'm going to say start, end, and radius. So I need to find one that says start, end, and radius. Start, end, and radius. And I click the start point. Let me turn this on. I'll click the start point. I'll click the end point. And then a radius. You know what? I don't know what I can put for radius. So I'm going to put a number in and see what happens. There we go. Right? So let me recycle that command. Hit enter. And I go start point, end point. And guess what? What happens is when you hit that enter key to recycle the command, it doesn't recycle it back to start end radius. It recycles it back to a 3-point arc. Okay? And if you look at this icon, the only icon here is for 3-point arc. So if I wanted the start-end radius, it's not available. Really, the only place I can do it is pull the pull-down menu. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this icon for arc, and I'm going to make a flyout icon, which gives me multiple options for the arc function, just like that draw pull-down, that pull-down menu did. Okay, so how do I do that? I go back into my custom interface. I go into toolbars. I right mouse click. Actually, I'm going to do this. I am going to expand the draw toolbar, because that's where the arc function is. Okay? And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to right mouse click, and I'm going to hit new flyout. So I click on new flyout, and it gives me that same thing. It gives me just a name. It says toolbar. Okay? So I'm going to right mouse click on this, and I'm going to rename it. And I'm going to rename it as arc. And then I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to actually drag it into that. All right? Now what I need to do is I need to find some of these options. I'm not going to go through all of them. I just want to give you a good idea that you can do this. So then I got this one. Here's an arc function too. So I come in here, and I look for my arc. Oop, what happened? Right there. Drop it inside that little bin. Another one. Okay, so I've got a couple different ones. We'll call those 4. Just imagine that I did all of them. Okay? So now I just click apply and click OK. And I have to admit that this is a little bit of a poor display, because that icon for arc, that I don't know if you can see it or not, but the icon for arc, which is right here, there's a little black dot right there. That's supposed to be a triangle. The little black dot indicates that icon is a flyout. So now if I just come over here on top of this icon, I click and I hold, the options will fly out. And then I can come over here and pick the one I want. And when I pick the one I want, what happens is it defaults that one that's on the toolbar back to the one I wanted. And this way I can just go back and I can select that one. So that's just another productivity tool that can make work. Because very rare do I use a 3-point arc. I always have different ways of doing it. And for me to go to the draw pull-down menu and it gets to be a pain. But if I can change the default on the toolbar by using that flyout, it makes life a little easier for me.
Drop and drag that new bar you created. File one, you should drop and drag that into the arc. You created a new flyout.
I created a new flyout. I called it arc.
Yeah, did you drag that into the arc one, or leave it just below?
No, well, what I did was when I created the new one for arc, there was an arc icon already. Let me find draw. Again, I'm going to have to do this. There was an arc icon already, so what I did was I just dragged it out of where it was and dropped it into the one I was. See, because if I do this, it's going to be on the toolbar. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to put this one in the flyout, so I dragged it into the flyout. So now it's added into that one, okay? So now I got myself a nice little productivity tool, and I'm off and running. And I always, 9 times out of 10 when I have this arc, I reinstalled this product just so I could do this demonstration, but I usually leave that as a flyout icon. All right, I want to make sure that I don't. What time does this session end? 3:45? Okay. All right. I would like to discuss some blocks, fields, and attributes. So let me open a file. I can find it. It is. And what I have is your typical drawing border. So with DraftSite, you can create blocks. You know what a block is, right? It's just a collection of entities all bound together to make one entity. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this. This is all separate entities, this drawing border, and I'm going to make a block out of it. And I'm going to add attribute data to it. And attribute data is intelligent text, right? So when I go to insert the block, it's going to ask me questions. And then ask questions, I'm going to be able to answer the questions. And then when I insert the block, it'll auto-populate the field. However, I'm going to do one little trick to the demonstration too. I have I have an attribute called rev. I've already added most of the attribute data. I'm going to add one just to show you how to do it, but this way I don't have to waste your time by making you see me do all of them. I have one called rev. I'm also going to add a field text for revision, so I can try to give you an idea of what the difference is between field text and attribute text, okay? I think it's important to know the difference. So let's do this. Let me just get rid of this drawing number, and I'm going to add another one for drawing number. So to add attribute text, you go to the draw pull-down menu, and you go to draw block. I should look on my computer here. Draw block and define block attribute. And the dialog box pops up. And the first thing you do is you give it the attribute a name. I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to give the name, I'm going to give it as number. Okay? And then the caption is, what is DraftSite going to ask me when I insert this block? Okay, so when I insert the block, it's going to ask me something. So we'll just say drawing number. Default value is if I don't fill in anything, do I want something there? I always put something there because it makes it visual. I can see that there's something there. I can just click on it and I can change the attribute text on the fly. So I just usually put like a little asterisk code. And here I could do some justification. I can use special text if I want. Format it in a different way. Like I can justify this one. I'm going to put it in the middle. So let me come over here and I'll just say middle center. All right? These ones here, fixed, just means the value is always fixed. Hidden is, I don't see the attribute, but it's still in the drawing. It has that intelligence. And if I happen to have a program that can extract the data from attributes into, say, an Excel spreadsheet, or we do have a command for exporting, I think it's block attribute export or block attribute output. You can send all the data to a text file. So if I created, say, a floor plan of this room, and I made a block for every one of these chairs, I could say each one of these chairs was, I put a cost on it, say $50. And then I populated this room with all the chairs. And at the end of the day, I could say block attribute output, and it would give me the number of chairs and how much they're worth, and so I can calculate a value for how many chairs I have to. So think of that as like an example of maybe an architect doing the same thing and populating a whole house and having. So you don't want to see that value on the block on the drawing, but you want the block to have that information. So you just do hidden. Predefined is you already give it a definition, and validate, it will ask you, is this really the answer? So it asks you twice. So you have a value in there, and it says, is that really 2? You say yes. So I'm going to leave it the way it is. Make sure you always, insertion point, click on this button here, specify later. Otherwise, the block attribute text is going to go to the 0, 0. So I just click OK, and move it over here, put it in the box, and I've got it. Okay? So let me do this now. I'm going to insert, well, I can't insert it yet. I'm going to create what we call a property, a drawing property. So DraftSite, you can go to File, Properties, and it gives you this dialog box for drawing properties. In the custom field area, I'm going to click on this down arrow, and I'm going to look for revision. Right? And click on revision. And I'm actually going to give it a value. I'm going to give it a value of A. So revision A. I click on OK. And then I'm going to insert field text, and I'm going to insert the field text for the revision. I go to revision, click OK, and I'm going to place it right here. Whenever you place field text in your drawing, it actually shows up a little shaded, but when you print it, it doesn't print shaded. So you can visually see that there's field text there. So I could have drawing number, I could have my name, I could have title, I can a whole bunch of different things I could put. You can create a custom field text. Anything you need to put in your file. If you go to that drop down, you come here, File, Drawing Properties, right? I can click Edit List, and then I can add right in here, I can add new one. And I click OK, and if I come in here now, I can scroll until I find the one that says new one. Okay, so I created my own attribute, my own field text just there. So whatever you want, whatever you need. So I input this. Now I'm going to make a block out of this. So to do that, I can click on the icon for Make Block. I'll give it a name. I'll just call it DWG. All right. Base point. I always forget to click base point. and then select the graphic area, select the geometry. So now I took all the geometry plus the text, right? So I'm going to hit enter. It's going to be bringing back the dialog. I have some options. I can preserve it as separate entities in the drawing. I can convert it to a block, or I can remove it from the drawing. By clicking this, it's going to just disappear. But I have a block now in the memory of the drawing. So let's insert it. So I'm going to insert block, and DraftSite will default to the last block created. I'm going to insert it at the 0, 0 with a scale of 1. So click OK. And it looks like it's in, but it really isn't. Because if you look down here, it's asking me what the drawing title is. So now I can type in I can fill in my fields. If I just want to hit my default value, I can hit my default value. And I'm going to hit default value for everything. And I notice that I didn't put in a revision. Okay? One of the great things about DraftSite, when you have a block with attributes in it, is you have what's called double-click edit. I can just double-click this block, and it pops up my attribute value block. And I'm going to just type in the value for the revision, which is A. Okay? So it's pretty simple. Right? So I'm going to go one step further, and I'm going to pretend I'm in a drawing environment. And we got to use our imagination hats on, because I know the first sheet would have the title block information like this. A second sheet would have just the drawing number with the revision code. Okay? But I'm going to pretend I have a multi-sheet drawing, and I'm just going to use the same block. Okay? So on my first sheet, I'm just going to insert the block. It looks like it's already there, but that's just a viewport. So I'm going to insert it here, insert the block. And don't worry if it gets bigger than the little graphic that I show on the screen here. It's okay. Okay. And then I'm going to create another new sheet. Just right mouse click, click new. It's going to give me another sheet. On this sheet here, I'm going to get rid of the viewport. And I'm going to insert the block and put it in. Okay. So now what you see is I have that same block in here. Oh, you know what? I didn't put it in either one of them, did I? Because I didn't fill in the fields. Sorry about that. Insert block. Click OK. Put it in, and I got to fill in the fields. If you don't fill in the fields, which is something I always forget to do, is you end up not getting the block. So now I have a block in here. I'm going to double click on this. I'm going to change the revision code to A. Where is it? Revision A. Click OK. Go to my next sheet. I'm in here. Double click. Revision A. Okay. All right. So now the boss says, okay, hey, that drawing is great, Mark, but you know what? We got to make a change to it. So I have to go to the first sheet. I have to make a change. So I make a change. And what do I have to do to the revision code? Got to raise it one, right? So I come over to this attribute and I raise it one. That was easy. Click OK. And then I go to the drawing properties. And you wouldn't do this, right? I'm just showing this in the example, the contrast between the attributes and the fields. So I come over to the field text and I make it B. So I click OK, nothing happens. There's two things you can do. You can go here and do a insert, rebuild fields, or if I save the file, I'm going to save this file. It ups the code, right? Now this is sheet 1. What happens when I click on sheet 2? The field text will just update across the drawing because it's a drawing property. The attribute text would actually have to be changed separately. So if you're in an environment like this, you would probably want to put field text in, because if you have a 5 or 10 sheet drawing, you'd have to have the draftsman go in on every sheet and change the code to whatever. If you have it as a field text, as soon as you save the drawing, updates, and you don't have to do it once. Okay? Question?
Are the custom properties for the DraftSite file going to be really accessible through those? They got a custom properties tab?
No, they're not. The question was, the custom properties available through Windows. So if I go through Windows Explorer and I hit the Properties tab and the menu pops up, I don't have those properties there. You have to go into the file to get them. Okay? That's a good question. And the only reason why I know the answer is because somebody asked me that question yesterday. How are we doing on time here? Good. Premium pack. Am I good so far? No questions? More questions? Okay, so I do a lot of travel and a lot of customer visits and a lot of vendor visits, and I go all over the place. And one of the things that I find is that most people still view DraftSight as nothing more than a viewer or something that they can open a DWG file. If you were in the last session, you would have noticed Aaron Kelly had a slide, and of all the people who are using DraftSight, the majority of the people that are using DraftSight are actually using for new design, creating new design. And I get the look all the time. But you know who uses it for new design? The older engineers. You know why? They're comfortable with it. It's like home again. You know, they know how to use it. It's what they wanted to. That's what they got. You know, they didn't want to move from the drawing board. And they got convinced to move from the drawing board. And they got convinced to go to 2D CAD. And once they went to 2D CAD, they're like, all right, I can see the use for this. And then somebody came over and said, hey, I got this great tool called SolidWorks. And they went, psh, I don't want anything to do with it. So a lot of the older engineers are doing layout work still in 2D. They pass it on to a hotshot designer, and the guy just whips it into 3D for them. But they're still creating design in 2D. But a lot of people don't realize that DraftSight is a professional-grade 2D CAD product you can create.
Yeah, we did renew our
AutoCAD. Mm-hmm.
but this is, and then finally the server crash that had the licenses on it and shared licenses. So now we're using this. So that's one of my goals is to find out. Now once we get all this set up, we can, I assume we can save this as a template for all of them.
Absolutely.
Get everything all set up, and then we can have something somewhat familiar.
Sure. The gentleman, his company was using AutoCAD. The license maybe was up for renewal, we'll say, but they got pushed into a reason because the server crashed or whatever. They decided to start using DraftSight, and he mentioned something about templates. If you're using AutoCAD and you have template files, you can open them right into DraftSight. If you sat in Caroline's session, you'd know where to put them, and you put them in a certain folder, because if you go to DraftSight, you go to Options, it tells you where to put them. Go to the Options menu, right? The first button is File Locations, and it'll tell you where to put your template files. You drop that template file in there. If it's already created externally, if you create your own template file, it automatically loads it into that location. If you create it externally, if you got an AutoCAD template file, you put it into this location, you go to File New, pops right up. Just use it. You can use your template files from your previous CAD product, say. So I'm going to highlight two things. I'm going to try not to take up too much time. I'm going to highlight two things. We have a customer, and I still think I need to go and do some custom training for this guy because he's in Maui. And he actually designs sailboard sails. Okay, the company's called Goya Sails. And he called up our sales guy, who actually is a buddy of his, because our sales guy's a surfer dude too, you know. And they're friends. And he said, hey, and Jeff Fedderson, our sales guy, knows the guy was using 2D CAD. He said, you ever think of using DraftSight? So this guy, Jason Diffin, said, can DraftSight automate the process to create my sailboard sails? He told Jeff that he takes all the data that he needs to make a sailboard sail, and he puts it into a spreadsheet. What he does is he takes that spreadsheet and he farms out the drafting work to some guy in China. The guy does all the work, and each spreadsheet, each sail could have maybe 9 different sizes to it. It's the same model, but a bunch of different sizes. So each size takes the guy maybe a day to do the drawing. Right? So he sends him a spreadsheet, it's got 9 sizes on it. The guy goes and crunches the numbers and boom, 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 creates a drawing. Sends it back to Jason, looks it on the screen, says, boy, I'd like to see it a little bit bigger here, a little taller there. Asks him to make some changes, sends it back. But the whole process takes about 2 weeks. So he asked if he could automate that process. And I said, yeah, absolutely. We have API in DraftSight Premium. We can call on these things. So I'm going to show you a quick app how we created. It's called Sail Design. Just going to load it in. Okay, even have a little icon for it. I can't seem to grab it. There we go. And I'm going to launch it. Bear with me for a second because I've got to find the spreadsheet. It might be right here. So here's the spreadsheet. So I just open it. You see it looks, all the data's in there. So I click open. And then another menu is going to come up, and it says, well, that spreadsheet has all these different sizes on it. Which size do you want me to draw? Well, let's do this. Let's check all. I want every one of them. It's drawing 9 different sized sails right now. So remember, it took this guy 2 weeks to get this drawings to turn around. And there you go. There's a document now. It's got all the different size sails. Now, if I open up this layer manager, you can see it's created all these layers with different sizes on it. So let's say I just want to see the size for 4.3. I just come in here, I do Shift Select. I can freeze all my layers. And there's that one sail, one size. That's pretty cool. That's DraftSight Premium with the API, DraftSight app API. Saved them a ton of money. Okay, so we have, currently we're in development of a new add-in that will be available to anyone who purchases the premium or the professional version. And this add-in is called Toolbox. Okay, so I have a copy of Toolbox on this. It is still in beta. It's still not even in beta. It's still in the development process. So please bear with me that some of this stuff is not quite ready for prime time. But I did want to show it because I'm excited about it. So let's say I have to, I'm going to create a design. We're going to use our imagination hats that I am the greatest designer in the world, and I'm making the most complicated design on earth, okay? And I got right there, I just made a really complicated design, and I've got to add some hardware to it. So we're going to say I need to put a 1/4 bolt on this thing. So I just go to my toolbox. There's a toolbar for it, but I'm going to go to the pull down, the toolbox. I can check the different standards, right? So I'm going to use the ANSI inch US standard, and I'm going to go into my toolbox, and I'm going to go to hardware, and I'm going to say insert. So I'm going to navigate through here, and I'm going to say I want a bolt. Oops. Hex bolt. 1/4. That'll be all right. It should be fine. It gives me some information here too. If I wanted to change my layer that I'm going to put it on, or if I wanted to create a new layer to put it on, whatever, I could do that at this point. So it gives you some different settings and some different properties that you can use. But I'm just going to say OK, and just going to insert it. Right? And I'm going to insert another one, and another one, and another one. I probably shouldn't have put them so close because I don't know how big the hole is going to be that I'm going to put in there. Okay, so now I'm good. So I hit Enter or Escape, and I'm out. So now I'm going to put the hole in for it. So I go to Toolbox, and I go to Holes. And I'm going to say Insert. So I'm going to insert a hole. And the hole is going to be for a 1/4 bolt, counterbore. So the bolt's going to go into the hole a little bit. So again, you get the same properties and settings that you can put in. So I click OK, and then I need to place it. And hopefully I can get this placed. Forgive me if I don't get them in the right spot. We're just pretending here. I would be clicking the intersection point, but I've got too many points set up. So now we've got the holes, right? So I just created this design and put the holes. So maybe I want to I need to detail it, right? So I need to put call out for this hole. So I can go into my hole call out, right? And I'm going to use a symbol type of call out. So I click symbols, and I'm going to click OK. And it says to specify the hole. So I click on this hole here. Now it wants to specify the start point. And again, I would get a little more detailed right now. I'm just going to do this. I'm doing this really quick. So I'm going to click here. I'll click here. And then I click here. I hit Enter. And it gives me the hole call out information. Again, it's not ready for prime time yet. And I'm going to go through this. And I know there's some standards that are maybe a little different. And I think the thing that says 4 holes should be 4x. Okay, but I know that, and that's going to be fixed. So I just was able to do that. Save me some time, right? And then let's say now we're going to pretend this is a printed circuit board where they use like a hole chart to find the location of the holes. So let's go in here and say, go to the toolbox, and we are going to create a hole table. So I'm going to create a hole table, right? I'm going to use a long table. And this will all be you'll have the ability to customize the look of the table too at some point. So you're going to put the table there. All right, and now it says specify the origin. So where would be the 0, 0 if I was going to do that? I'm going to click right here. And then now it says specify the holes, so the table. So I'm going to click. I just grabbed everything. It's only going to read the holes, and I hit enter, and it builds my hole chart. So this is an app that we're creating, and it's actually being built with the DraftSight API. So if you have a really hotshot programmer at your company, he could do the same thing. There's nothing in the core that we're adding that will make this happen. It's all built on top of the DraftSight API. So that's available to you with the premium or the professional version. Okay, how am I doing? Okay. Toolbox, DraftSight. Okay, good. I hope SolidWorks is up and running. It is good. So I'm going to do one more little demonstration for you. And this is like my little gift to the SolidWorks people because they like to see SolidWorks. I want to see SolidWorks. Show me SolidWorks. I'm going to open a file. And let's say this file, this is an old legacy drawing file that you have in your vault, and the boss says to you, hey, look, this design is really valid. We want to use the same mechanism. We did this in 1995, and we used 2D CAD to design this thing, and we're going to use the same mechanism. And we want that mechanism, but we want to do design in SolidWorks today. So you call up the drawing, and okay, great. One of the things you can do with DraftSight is you can take geometry from the file, and you can export that geometry as a block or into another file. It creates another DWG file, let's say. Okay, so I'm going to come over here and I'm going to look at this, and I see this outline for this lever. I'm going to just click on it for a second. And it's all one polyline, so it's pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to File, Export, Export Drawing. All right? And I'm going to select the entity right there. Hit Enter. Let me specify a base point. And I'm going to pick the circle, say right there. All right? And then what I need to do is I need to actually give it a path. I need to tell it where it's going. And I like to force it to where it's going to go. So I'm going to create a path, and I'll put that one in here. And we're going to call it SWW, SolidWorks World. And then I click OK. And just to show you what happened is I will now open a file that I just created called SWW, SolidWorks World. It's just the outline. I could have grabbed as much geometry as I wanted and exported it to this, and it would make a new drawing for it. So this now, what I can do, and it probably could have done this in a different way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select it, and I'm going to just hit Control-C, copy to a clipboard. I'm going to open up SolidWorks, and I'm going to create a new file. And then I'm going to create a sketch on a sketch plane. And I'm just going to hit Control-V for paste. And if I do a fit screen, you see I just pasted that geometry right into SolidWorks. Right? I did that wrong. Okay, so that's one way to do it. That's one way to do it. And then I could do this. I could say features extrude. And I can just click OK, and I got my model. So that is one way to do it. But I'm going to show you another way. I'm going to create another new file. And instead of copy-paste, what I'm going to do is, you know how I extracted that geometry and put it in a new DWG file? Now I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to Tools, and I'm going to Blocks, Insert. Okay, I'll click the front plane, and I'm going to browse. I'm going to browse for that file that I just created as a DWG, and you'll see it's right here called SWW. But before I click open, I'm going to hit this little button right here, create external reference to file. Click on that, I click on open, place it, and now I can extrude it, check, and I've got a model. So I'm all proud of myself. I go to the boss, I said, look what I did. And he said, that's great, Mark, but you forgot to put the hole in the middle of it. So I go back to draft site. I say, okay, well, I forgot to put the hole in the middle of it. So I'm going to go to circle. And I'm going to create a hole. We're just going to pretend I just located this hole in the most perfect location. And I'm going to save the file. I go back to SolidWorks. And I got to make sure I know which one I just did. I think it's this one. And then I can just simply hit Control Q. And it adds a hole. So a little bit of connection between the two products, if you so be it. Either way, if you have DWG legacy file, you want to create a model, you can just copy paste to a clipboard and put it in a sketch plane, and you can create your models that way. I will tell you that once you do put the geometry in the sketch plane, you need to fully define it. Okay, it doesn't come with the dimensions, but it is scaled. You just need to add the dimensions. You can auto-dimension it, and boom, you're up and running. You're good to go. So that's what I have for you here. If you signed up on that email list, I will send you a copy of the tests probably tonight. I'd love to take questions if there's any questions. What's the longevity of the product? The longevity of the product is this, in my opinion. Now, this is my opinion. Draft site free will always be free. We're never going to change that. We're too far down the road now to even consider changing that. However, if you've used draft site and if you're using draft site premium today, you would notice that as far as the two versions go, there's not a lot of separation between the draft site paid for version and draft site free version. We're going to add a lot more content into the draft site paid version to separate it from the free version. The draft site free version will always be quality. You'll be able to use it and do everything you can. We won't add any functionality to draft site premium that you can't do with draft site free. Like I can do the toolbox, right, with draft site premium. With draft site free, I can draw a hex, I can draw a circle, I can draw a line. So you can still create the geometry. We're just going to make it easier for you to do it. So that's kind of what we're doing. We're trying to add more value to the premium version to try to get you to think about purchasing the premium version. Okay?
So like if you were to add like the files and stuff, you can do that with the free one at this point, right? Or you guys
Say that one more time. Adding the flyouts, what I just did, everything I did here with the exception of demonstration for the premium is free. You can add the flyout icons, you can add the new toolbars, you can all that in the free. Does a premium version have auto update? Not yet. We have a new release coming out at the end of the week. Will it have auto update? No. But it's coming. Any more questions? Yes. There's templates. Yeah, if you go into the API help, if you go into draft site, the question is there's templates that you can use when you create an API. If you go to here and you go to API help, then you can find some templates in there that you can use to create your own add-in. Okay? Thank you. Oh, one more question. Are you asking if you can do the opposite of what I did? No, you can't. The only way you can have that functionality that's associative right now is if you go from draft site to SolidWorks. You can't take a SolidWorks and become associative to draft site. It may be a functionality that we're going to add at some point, but right now we don't have it. All right, thanks for coming. If you wanted to join the hands-on session, it's going to start soon, and yours truly will be instructing that. So if you enjoyed this one, that one's even better. At least I hope. Thank you very much.